morning. This is a Sunday morning stream. I got about an hour to kill before church, so I figured I would go through the news, see what's in the headlines, make sure I'm staying apprised of everything that is happening in the world. Um, yeah, I saw this last night. This is Kanye West's personal trainer who sent him some really sketchy messages about basically you're not allowed to talk about conspiracy theories, and um, if you want to be treated by me, if you want me to be your personal trainer, then you're not allowed to talk about that kind of stuff. And if you do, I'm going to have you sent back to the mental institution where they'll put you on a bunch of drugs and you'll be a zombie again. Like if you'll remember, was it 808s and Heartbreak that had that song about Lexapro and all that stuff? So I mean, Kanye has sung about the prescription drugs that he's been on and how they completely neutralize him as a human and make him numb. And now you get a little bit of the backstory of the people in his life basically blackmailing him, saying, if you are yourself and you talk about the things that you believe, here you go. Here's the message right here. Harley is the name of the trainer. I'm going to help you one of a couple ways. First, you and I sit down and have a loving, open conversation, but you don't use cuss words, and everything that is discussed is based in fact and not some crazy stuff that dumb friend of yours told you, or something you saw in a tweet. So basically, I get to say what the facts are. If you believe something is a fact, it doesn't matter. He has to also believe it's a fact, he being the trainer. So, like, Christians, will say, yeah, I believe that Jesus is factually the Son of God. And then other people will say, no, you can't say that. Like, that's your belief. That's not a fact. And then, so you have an argument over what facts are. And then Harley, as trainer, is saying, if we end up in that situation where we disagree about the facts, I'm going to have you institutionalized again, where they medicate the crap out of you and you go back to being a zombie forever. Your relationship with your kids will never be the same again. Okay, you're my fucking personal trainer. You're responsible to tell me how many calories I eat and how many grams of protein I should be having and what workout to do. What are you talking about? I can have you institutionalized again. Does something sound off here about you guys? Like, about this situation to you guys? Why does a personal trainer have this much power and influence in Kanye West's life? Like, you're a celebrity trainer, dude. You're not... maybe there's something about you that we don't know. Canadian-American personal trainer, motivational speaker. I'd love to know what his relationships are with the medical institutions that he can just slip a word to have famous people locked up. Maybe we should look into that. Probably worth considering. Anyway, what's in the news? Sweden vans to ban all religious schools in an effort to tackle segregation after taking in a record number of asylum seekers. Yeah. And that's including private schools as well. Oh, but look, Jewish schools will be exempt from the new ban. Politicians why? Why make a rule about banning all religious schools and there be a carve out for one and only one type of religious school? Like, do you guys understand that they're not even that, like, secretive or intelligent about hiding their agenda and about their obvious preference? It's a very self-serving religious group of people. Whereas Christians, truly practicing Christians who are following the word of treating thy neighbor like yourself, they say, even if my neighbor isn't Christian, I want just as much for them as I want for myself or anyone in my family. And that just does not appear to be the belief when it comes to the most powerful of the Jewish elite. You're not allowed to have a Christian school, a Muslim school, anything like that. We're going to ban those schools in Sweden, but the Jews can still have their schools. Make it make sense, guys. Make it make sense. Oh man, a spike in fetal deaths, unexplained rise in mortality, and strange clots found in blood vessels since the COVID vaccine rollout. These things are so nasty looking. These little tendrils of body mass, it's just gross. And those are forming in people's veins. They thought they were blood clots, but they're not. So, yeah, pretty disgusto. We got some conspiracy stuff going on here with Keanu Reeves and Jackie Chan. Anyway, let's head to Twitter and see what's on the Twitter. Can we get a refresh? There we go. Okay, Trump coined a new nickname for his biggest GOP rival, Ron DeSanctimonious, at his Latrobe rally last night. I watched this rally. It was very entertaining. It was long. I mean, it was over 2 hours long of basically just Trump monologuing. Like a couple of minutes were spent calling Dr. Oz up and calling Doug something or other. I forgot his name up. You know, a couple people running for Senate. But the majority of the entire broadcast was Trump just speaking, which the immediate call out there is, can you imagine for even just a second, Joe Biden getting up and talking in front of thousands of people live outdoors where the wind is blowing hard for multiple hours? I mean, like, this guy can't get through a 10-minute long address from the White House without significantly bumbling his words and making a fool of our entire government. And then Trump just goes on for 2 hours, like doesn't even stutter on a single word. It's amazing. Like, he's a very, very, very good public speaker. Okay, what else? I should probably respond to President Biden. Most common gas stations across the country is $3.19 per gallon. Yeah, I don't know about that. Because I just looked at it yesterday, and it was $5.69 here. So I'm happy for you guys that are paying $2.50 less than I am, but I'm just telling you what my reality is right now. Look at these bot responses. I speak for all Americans when I say you are the greatest president in American history. Like, not even any Democrats believe that. Actual non-robot, non-troll, non-paid to say this people. Like, I know I have friends and family who are Democrats who just, you know, we peacefully get along. We agree to disagree. None of them would ever rank Joe Biden above, for example, Mr. Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Obviously. Like, there's no one ever present or in the future, I promise, who is ever going to look back and say, Democrats, that Joe Biden and what he's done in the last 18 months is somehow more historic, better for the American people than what Obama did in their eyes. Now, if you're a Republican, you're going to say, honestly, Obama was worse than Joe Biden. Maybe. I don't know. Like, they're different types of really, really bad. Obama is responsible for mainstreaming all of this racial division, all this Marxism, all the gender consternation that we have between men and women, all the girl boss mentality of, yeah, everybody should be Michelle Obama. That stuff really started with his 2 terms, and it's just gotten worse and worse since then. So it's like he kind of set the boulder rolling downhill. And then Biden came in, took those policies, multiplied them times 10, and in a very short period of time destroyed the country. That's the truth. Bots for Biden. See, I mean, like, you don't have to be a genius to critically think and say, okay, look, I get it that I have a bias against the Democrats and especially Joe Biden. But nobody thinks Joe Biden is the best president of all time. So when you see comments like that on Twitter, it's funny, and I'm sitting here laughing about it and whatnot, but it's a genuine problem because there are some people who can't critically think, and they just see, okay, well, the very first response with 100 likes is some people actually think Biden's doing great. Maybe Biden is doing great. I don't know. I haven't looked at the economic numbers. Look at this guy. He's like a president, but for stupid people. Yeah, we stand with Kanye, sir. Yes, I gotta say. Kanye 2024. How about that? Boom. Wait a minute. Is this the exact same post? We are lucky to have you, blah, 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 blah. We are lucky to be alive during your term. Oh, what do you know? It's the exact same post. Copy and pasted, almost like it's a bot. I mean, Elon said this before he bought the company. He said, I'm pretty sure like the majority of your users are not real. And you use that to misrepresent the popularity of certain ideas. Oh, man. Gotta love a good political cartoon. All right. Let's keep going. What else is in the news? That's a good headline. 250,000 likes. That's a lot. Journalists with they, them pronouns in their bio will pay $16 monthly fee instead of the $8 fee because they identify as multiple people. Sometimes you just have to stop and appreciate a good slice of humor. Like that's a good one. I gotta say, can I steal that? I'm gonna retweet that. Who else thinks there's gonna be a huge blue wave that the red wave is nothing but another big lie? So okay, for relative comparison, making fun of transgender people and gender ideology, how popular is that? 250,000 likes. How popular is the belief that there's going to be a blue wave and not a red wave? Or the idea that there was a big lie about the January 6th stuff? 8,000 likes. This is why censorship matters. Because in the previous era, if you would have made a joke and made fun of transgender people on Twitter, this post right here would have gotten slammed, censored. This guy would probably get banned or shadow banned. And you would never even see, as a Twitter user, just how popular this belief is. That gender ideology and pronoun bullshit is a joke. It's a literal joke. This is a joke. I'm not trying to say like Josh thinks this is a joke. It's a very popular joke with 250,000 people laughing at it in the last 10 hours. That's how much of a joke this ideology is. It's a comedic joke, but it's also a practical, logical, biological, societal joke. And I love to see it. I really love to see it. I love to see Twitter being a fair place for free speech. Where is Michelle Obama? I don't know, Jack. Nobody's seen her in a while. Social credit system coming soon to America. I can guarantee you that. It's going to be difficult to fight against. So many people fall into we are all technophobes now. We all have smartphones that we're addicted to. I'm sitting here with a laptop, a desktop, a phone, a tablet, all the software, and we're all addicted to technology. So I'm not sitting here saying this doesn't apply to me too. But the situation with the digitized currency that's controlled by the government is so remarkably dangerous. But I think we're all going to get fooled into it. I think the general masses are just not going to be able to understand the implications before it's too late. I think that's what's going to happen. Let's see. Yeah, this is a great story. So surprisingly Wall Street Journal, never mind. They're good. They're pretty based. Caitlin Younger, this young fine female here who is doing very well in her studies, gets a 1550 on her SAT, which is near perfect, okay? That's like, you can't get much better than that, realistically speaking. Tried to get into the Ivy Leagues. They would not accept her. Why? because she's a white female. Or more specifically, just because she's white. Like, that's the real truth. It has nothing to do with her being a female. She's white. If she had that score as a black person, she would have got in immediately. She had that score as a Hispanic person, she would have got in immediately. The study that came out last week showed that there's a 350-point penalty for being white in Ivy League schools when it comes to SAT scores. And that is affirmative action in action. That's what they wanted. The whole argument is that, well, listen, we need to let these BIPOC or individuals from lower resourced communities, whatever stupid lingo they're using, we want fair opportunities for them. So we want them to be able to go to Ivy League schools just as much as anybody else. But the problem is they're not able to score well enough. They're not like literally educated enough to get into those Ivy League schools. So what do we do about that? Do we, like look into why their education is failing at the schools in the neighborhoods that they're engaging in? No. We just lower the requirement scores for them in the name of equity. And so that way, if you're black, you can get into Harvard with a score that's 350 points lower than somebody else who worked their entire life, was probably valedictorian of their school, got a near perfect score on their SAT, probably went through you can't understand how much stress it is to be like one of these students. I know, because I grew up with a family member who was like second in line to valedictorian, had over a 4.0 GPA, and although she was very proud of herself and whatnot, it was a very, very stressful thing for her too. And so for an individual to devote 10, 20 years of their life to achieving very, very high academic standards, to then get sidelined based on your skin color alone, doesn't matter how good of an essay you write, doesn't matter your test scores, sorry, you got the wrong color skin, you don't get to go to the Ivy Leagues. How is that not overt racism? Like, the people who advocate for affirmative action, it's like they've thought about the idea for about 4 seconds and said, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do it. Let's make a law to do it. Let's make it a requirement to do it. They're like, oh yeah, more opportunities for more people. Yep, put it into law. Put it into law. Like, did anybody raise their hand and say, hold on, there's like a fundamental baseline of racism here? I'm sure they did. I mean, people like Larry Elder, Thomas Sowell, they've been outspoken of these affirmative action or any kind of ideological based on race and skin color laws. These diversity, equity, and inclusion laws or practices within businesses, they're just racism. That's it. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't get around the fact that the moment you say we're going to reserve certain positions at our school, certain positions at our company, whatever, for a certain race of people or a certain skin color, you just committed racism. It's a meritocracy. That's how the free market works. That's why we have so many terrible businesses. That's why we have a terrible government, because they're not operating based on meritocracy. They're operating based on diversity. This is going to be an interesting one to play out, see how it unfolds. The Trump-DeSantis 2024 presidential election. I mean, I'm looking at both of their faces, and they're pretty funny because they're both very smug people. They're both, very confident, but in my opinion, qualified to be so. Trump probably a bit more than DeSantis, but they're both great. And honestly, I would be very happy with either of them being president. So I don't really care which one of them gets the nomination. But what I'm scared of is the collateral damage. And hopefully neither of them take it too far, because long term, America needs DeSantis to come in once Trump is done. And truth be told, if Trump takes over for 4 more years or maybe even 8 more years, that's enough time for even any kind of mudslinging that goes on during those 1 or 2 elections I think people will be able to forgive and forget, and then go DeSantis. But I'm talking pretty far out. It's a hypothetical 8 years from now, who is going to be the Republican candidate. Yeah, that's me though. I overthink. I try to do too much planning. What age did you wake up to realize everything was a scam? Guys, this is embarrassing. I got the answer to this question though. Look, for me, 30, either 35 or 36. 35. Yeah, 35 because it was last year. I'm 36 now. COVID is what red pilled me. It was so obvious what the government was doing and exaggerating the severity of COVID, and then trying to push this highly profitable big pharma scheme on everybody. I was like, I can't trust you guys, which creates the immediate question of, what else are you pushing down my throat because there's an alternative agenda? And that's the rabbit hole that just exposes you to everything. Like, the moment you find out something is such an egregious lie, it's just like if you're in a personal, romantic, friendship, whatever, and you find out that that person lied about something very, very large to you, your trust is blown with them. Like, there is no getting it back. And that's how it is with people who don't trust the government. They start off as like, I'm just an objective, skeptical person. Can you please show me the data? And then if you actually get your hands on the data and find out that it 100% contradicts what the government told you, and held a gun to your head and said you have to believe or else you go to jail or you get fired or, something else is severe, that is what really turns people off of the government and shifts them from skepticism to an active disdain for the government. Because you're sitting here taking 1/3 of my entire income to blackmail me into doing things I don't want to do while calling me a bad person the entire time. Like, I feel like I have a fully legitimate cause to not like the government. Yes. And then ironically, they do all that to you. And then when you're sitting here not trusting the government, you're like, okay, I need to be able to defend myself. So that's why we have a Second Amendment. People think the Second Amendment is about, making sure you have weapons on hand in case the British come again. No. Or if China invades. No. It's not that kind of situation. We need our guns because the Founding Fathers knew that it's not always foreign nations that are a threat. It is corrupt internal governments that are the threat. That's how nations fall. And so the citizens need to be fully armed and prepared to defend themselves when a government becomes ruthlessly tyrannical. And so that's why they go after the Second Amendment rights. They're like, okay, yeah, damn, they're on to our scheme. They finally realize that they can't trust us and that we're blackmailing them. And there's way more of them than us, so we need to do something here, and it's too dangerous to let them have these guns. So we got to start doing things to go after that. And so that's where you see all these false flag events with the school shootings and mass shootings, the Las Vegas stuff. All it is hype to put the belief in gullible liberals' minds that not drugs, guns themselves are the danger, not people who are pushed to do violent acts. And that's another rabbit hole to go down in terms of what is it that's actually making these people snap and go on these murdering sprees. And whether or not that's MK Ultra or societal decay that we're creating through the intentional demasculization of men and the demonization of men and the rhetoric around anti-whiteness. I mean, look, who are all these shooters? Young white men. I just laid out the facts for you. When you sit there and tell young white men that they're bad based on their skin color, they're bad based on their gender, they're bad based on their heritage and all of their forefathers, they're like, okay, well, if you want to sit here and paint me as the demon and the scourge of the earth, how do you think they're going to act? So, anyway, Might as well just ask him to castrate himself and give his nuts to the ADL. Oh man, yeah, more Kyrie Irving shit. So have delivered Kyrie Irving 6 items he must complete to return to the team. He apologized. He must apologize and condemn the movie. $500,000 donation. Sensitivity training. Anti-Semitic training. Meet with the ADL. Meet with Joe Tsai to demonstrate understanding. I don't know who Joe Tsai is. I should look that up. Hold on. I think I remember seeing his name in the headlines the other day. Executive Vice Chairman of Alibaba. What? Hong Kong Canadian billionaire. Is he like the owner of what? Okay, he's the owner of the Nets. Yeah, so he'd have to meet with the owner of the Nets. Whatever. All right, what does Matt Walsh have? So this is the Trump rally from last night. What does Matt Walsh have to say? DeSantis is an extremely effective conservative governor who has had real policy wins and real cultural wins. Yeah, it's going to be, if it does come down to the two of them racing against each other, which I guess it kind of has to, because long term, DeSantis has to get the message out. Like I think he honestly knows if he runs against Trump 2024, he's not going to win. The people who love Trump are so desperate for him to come back. They're not just desperate for a Republican to be in charge again, and even if it's a Republican who shares 90% of Trump's policies, they want Trump, the person, back, the personality back. And Ron has a similar boisterous, aggressive, anti-snowflake personality, but still, it's not the same person. Like, people want Trump back specifically. But Ron does need to go through the entire presidential run routine for practice and to set himself up for a 2028 victory, I think. Yeah. Launching your public attack against the most popular conservative governor in America 3 days before the midterms when we're all supposed to be showing a united front. What's going on here? Why is Matt Walsh coming after Trump? I mean, I guess he's just he likes DeSantis more than Trump. That's kind of the obvious takeaway here. But I always look for what's actually happening 3 layers beneath, because it's like, okay, Matt Walsh works for the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro are openly aligned with big tech. They were allowed to stay on social media and everything due to their agreement to not talk about what was really happening with COVID. And they are actively, what can I say, not avoiding, but lying about the Kanye Jewish situation. And so I start to feel like the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro are probably directing all of its employees, all of its influencers, to be negative on Trump because Trump, for real, knows what's going on with Israel. He knows. And I think they probably feel like Ron winning is a lot of the Trump beliefs and just general fiscal conservatism that they're looking for, and societal policy as well, like, anti-trans, anti-abortion, pro-2A, all that stuff. They know that they'll get that stuff with DeSantis. But I think that they hope that DeSantis is either less awake because he's younger, or perhaps less awake just because he's not as red-pilled as Trump is. And so that's what I'm reading between the lines there. When I see Matt Walsh come out against Trump, I can bet you also you'll see the same thing from Candace Owens. You'll see the same thing from Ben Shapiro. Like, those are their 3 biggest talking heads. And they have a couple of other, lower level influencers. I think it's Brett Cooper and a couple of others. Yeah, so here's your miscarriage/stillbirths by year. What a confusing trend. Like, I really can't figure out what might have changed with miscarriages from 2020 to 2021. Can anybody guess? I mean, COVID Is that a common symptom of COVID? Miscarriages? Or is it maybe something else everybody got in 2020 to 2021? Maybe a product from something that rhymes with Schleiser? Or maybe Moderna? Or maybe Bronson and Bronson? I wonder if those things may create miscarriages and stillbirths, or if it was this COVID that gives you just flu-like symptoms. I don't know. Either way, it's a question people should be asking. Oh man, this lady's terrible. Hey, Gilbert. He's back here grooming himself, and the sound is just kind of nauseating. He's like slurp, slurp, slurp. We gripped up. Black Lives Matter rally held in Gulfport, Mississippi. The pistol arm team was shot dead by a police officer responding to a 911 call about people in a vehicle brandishing firearms. I don't know enough about this case, so I'm not going to comment. But I do know that Black Lives Matter is a scam. I thought everybody knew that by now, honestly. I thought they would like disband now that they've been publicly exposed as being nothing but a cash grab. But, okay, whatever. Mind you, by the way, if this imagery was coming out at a White Lives Matter, a bunch of Proud Boys up there with AR-15s, how do you think that would go over? They would be comparing that to the modern day KKK. You know that. Like, that's just true. There's no way you could have a White Lives Matter gathering with guns on hand in a public place, yelling and screaming about how much White Lives Matter, and not go to jail and not have it called a hate crime. You know, that's the racial hypocrisy that we're seeing in America 2022. It's very frustrating. Never in my 36 years have I seen so much open and flagrant racism. Yeah, very disappointing. Ban pornography on Twitter. I didn't realize that was a problem in the first place. Like, I don't ever see any pornography on Twitter. The car market is collapsing. Yep, I mentioned this to you guys last week. I mean, you saw this coming when you saw the price of used cars go up like, what was it, 50, 60%? Even more in some places? Like, that's an unnatural bubble. The same way the stock market has crashed 30% because it was in an unnatural bubble. The same way the housing market collapsed both in 2008 and is about to collapse now, because you can't have things appreciate 25% in value, 50% in value in a matter of 1 or 2 years. That's not how appreciation of durable goods works. And sure, like, cars are not necessarily durable goods, but they are goods that you buy and hold and use for 10, 20 years. Oh my goodness. Look at this. I can't even read this guy's tweets. They're always too cringeworthy. 4 artificial intelligent robots killed 29 scientists at a lab in Japan. What? Were killed producing weaponized autonomous robots. And this is from back in 2017. You'll have to come back to that on your own time. We don't have time for that. We got some local Portland news here. This lady she is like the embodiment of Black Lives Matter and is one of the reasons why Portland has a homelessness and crime problem that is, at this point, probably beyond saving. Angry Canadians corner Justin Trudeau and say, "Take my jab up your ass." Oh boy, yeah, I'm ready for him to get out of office. He should honestly be impeached. Like, they can't wait to elect somebody else. They need to get him out of here. Oh boy, we got Bill Gates. What is this?
Hello, useless eaters. As your unqualified, non-elected global human health overlord, I'd like to take this opportunity to flaunt my position of power and influence over society and share some of my plans for you and your future. When I amassed my fortune in computer software, I demonstrated that I was willing to lie, steal code, cheat my partners, and exercise monopolistic control to destroy my competitors. Now that I've retired, I can rebrand myself as a humanitarian. With my for profit foundation masquerading as a charity, I can advocate for population reduction and sponsor mass human experiments with unproven vaccines in vulnerable populations. Like my father, a powerful banker, eugenicist, and Rockefeller crony himself, it's always been my ambition to decide who lives and, more importantly, how many have to die. Whether it's under the guise of climate change or world health, it's really all about controlling and culling the human herd for fun and profit. In November of last year, I hosted Event 201, a war game simulation of a global pandemic. Leaders from private corporations, global banks, governments, and the media got together to strategize ways they could align in lockstep when responding to a worldwide health crisis. Using a coordinated campaign of fear-mongering, intimidation, social shaming, and economic blackmail, we realized that we could get around dangerous philosophies like individual liberty and national sovereignty. With an obedient population, we would be free to implement our own top-down solutions, like forced quarantines, social distancing, contact tracing, and mandatory testing, as a means to seize technocratic control of society. Now imagine my excitement when we had the opportunity to declare our own global pandemic. It was my chance to look like the Nostradamus of public health and to position myself and business partners like Dr. Fauci as the de facto authorities on response and solutions. Through exaggerated doomsday scenarios and computer simulations, our petty control freaks instituted harsh rules and draconian lockdowns.
Yeah, that is, every single word of that is 100% accurate. And it's so challenging that people don't know that. Like, they genuinely believe, oh yeah, we were just minding our business, and boom, a bat virus came and swept up the world in once in a millennium pandemic. What do you know? 1 year after we planned that exact activity, what do you know? It's just a coincidence that is going to go down in history as, you know, who would have thought that would be how it played out?
Hello, you.
Like, I feel like a lot of the population have the critical thinking skills as if they were born yesterday. I'm sorry, that's insulting, and it's not true, honestly, because I know a lot of brilliant people, highly intelligent people, who hold these beliefs, who would echo everything Bill Gates just said. Not catching the sarcasm in any of it, not catching the fact that they are one of his test subjects. They genuinely believe that, like, Bill Gates is out here trying to save the world and cure all these diseases. He's one of the good guys. Pfizer saved the day by by having this vaccine that we could all take. They really believe that stuff, and it's not because their IQ is low. They do lack a certain degree of critical thinking skills. That's just true, because you should be able to see through this entire charade. But the critical thinking skills get dampened when the propaganda is so strong. I mean, like last night, I'm sitting there watching the Alabama LSU game. It's a fucking football game, guys. Brought to you by Pfizer. Don't forget to get your COVID shots this winter. That's what the banner on the screen said. This football game on NBC, or was it ESPN? It was ESPN, owned by Disney, wants to remind you that it's very important that you go get some Pfizer love. We are dealing with mass psychosis. Yeah, so okay, that's fine. I'm glad this post is right up next, because that's the truth. When I'm sitting here talking about the whole dampening of people's IQ and their critical thinking abilities, that phenomenon, because of the dampening of their IQ and their critical thinking skills because of propaganda, that is mass psychosis. That's what that term was invented to describe, was you have normally intelligent people getting conned into beliefs that are just contradictory to common sense. That's why it's psychosis. Where's the outrage over the vaccine deaths? You're not going to see it. What Barack Obama said. Yeah. They're trying to haul Mr. Racial Division himself out ahead of these midterms, thinking that's going to boost the polls. But it ain't going to work, man. You guys shot yourself in both feet this time. Twitter layoffs, oh my gosh. Twitter layoffs, ironically, is the first transparency ever. Holy shit, they had entire teams coordinating with the UN on what's acceptable for Americans to say. What the actual fuck. Yeah, but it's great that we're getting the proof of this, and I told you guys this is the real win of Elon acquiring Twitter. People thought it was like, and myself included, I was like, yes, finally free speech. We'll at least be able to let the people know that our opinions are actually very popular, if not more popular than these awful far left ideas. That's all good and well to shift the tides with public speech, but the damage that's already been done, the corruption that currently exists, needs to be revealed and rebuked. And until that happens, we're not going to have our democracy. Like, until we fix the interference in elections, the fraud, then a true democracy will not exist. I mean, that's why the 2020 election went the way it did. We tried to do democracy, everybody go vote. Donald Trump gets more votes than any president in history, yet loses because Joe Biden got even more votes than him and didn't even campaign. Joe Biden gets more votes than Obama, like the greatest Democrat president of all time, according to pretty much any Democrat who's living right now. A walking corpse with dementia somehow got more votes than Obama and Trump. Okay, sure. But I mean, now we know why that happened. There's going to be more shoes to drop when it comes to revealing the fraud that took place. I mean, the Pennsylvania rally last night, they were talking about how the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court has now come out and said and acknowledged that their election was fraudulent, and that they're enacting new methods and processes to try to avoid that happening in the 2022 midterms next Tuesday, like 2 days from now. Okay, so they've actually said, yes, there was fraud in our election. And so Trump's question back to them was, okay, well, are you going to go and overturn the election then, now that you just said there was fraud? And they said, no, we're only going to apply this to the 2022 and going forward. Okay, of course. So you can steal the election, say that you stole it afterward, and say, oh, but we're not going to steal it in the future. We'll have it fixed by then. And no, we're not going to go back and fix what we stole. We're just letting you know that we did steal it. It's terrible, man. Yeah, there's our 3,000-pound sarcophagus. Zero COVID in China. No child should ever be treated like this. Oh my God, this is just terrible. This is a... Gilbert, stop. My dog's pissed off at this when he sees this. Like, come on, what are you doing to these people? That is a power show. That's the government making it as clear as they possibly can to as many people as they possibly can. Put that on every news channel. Let it be on Twitter. Let it be on Instagram. That the government calls the shots. Period. Including how your children are treated. That's what that is. That's all that is a very public broadcast of do not disobey the government. We will put you in a bus. We'll put you in a jumpsuit. We'll take your kid. Yeah. No, thank you. This is the lie they keep saying about Social Security. Republicans are going to take away Social Security and Medicare. That's not going to happen. They're just saying that to scare people. Is this a Democrat trying to pretend to be a Republican? Is that what I see happening here? We decided we were going to have a flag parade, so we loaded up the trucks. The GOP doesn't own the American flag. The people do. That's true. Like, honestly, I always thought it was very depressing that the Democrats are unwilling to be patriots. They said it on the news. Like, you tune into NBC, CNN, patriot has become code word for domestic terrorists. The FBI, I'm not joking, I'm not exaggerating, that's not hyperbole. The FBI published reference points for local police authorities to monitor for patriotism and patriots and patriot groups. They sent the same memos to social media, to Facebook, saying, hey, these patriot groups, keep an eye on them because they're known to commit domestic terrorism. And some of the symbols these patriots use is the American flag. Like, that's just dystopian beyond words. Flying your own nation's flag and calling yourself a patriot puts you on a government watch list now. So, my commentary on a Democrat now saying, hey, look, the American flag is the American flag. Like, it should represent our party just as much. I think that's great. And I think Democrats should call themselves patriots if they genuinely believe in America first, for one. Not America 5th or 6th or 12th or wherever the fuck they rank it right now, because it's clearly not first. And it's all about actually being proud of your country. And that's why the Democrat Party is currently failing, because they have the public perception that they are not proud of this country, that they actively dislike this country, that they think our country is this blood-soaked, slavery-ridden white patriarchy of oppression, where women are treated like garbage. Like, that's the perception of the Democrat Party. That it's, what is that awful show, The Handmaid's Tale? They think America is The Handmaid's Tale plus Django Unchained. That's what they think of America. 2022 America. Meanwhile, you look at any other country and the amount of multicultural diversity and peace that they have is nothing compared to America. Nothing. Not even close. And that's not even accounting for the fact that America is trying to achieve that balance with 330 million people. We do a damn good job. We set the example for diversity already without the racist diversity, equity, and inclusion laws. And the reason that's possible is because this is a Christian nation, where the Founding Fathers knew from the get-go. I don't want to hear the stuff about how it was only white men that could own property, it was only white men that could vote, blah, blah, blah. It was a founding document to get the country up and running, knowing that in the future, we can make those accommodations. And you can argue with me about accommodations, like, why, hold on, I thought you said, why do non-whites and women have to be accommodated for? Aren't they just equal? They are. They truly are. But the place in society for men and women is different, for one. So to say that we need to expect the exact same from men and women is misleading, and it's contrary to their biological nature. So the rights that were bestowed on each were representative of their roles at the time. Men were the leaders of their households. That's why the men cast the vote. Men were responsible for securing resources, shelter, food, and well-being for the home. Whereas that was not the role of the woman back then. And so to try to apply the standards of 2022 in terms of gender or slavery and race, once again, at that point in time, slavery was still the norm. Anyway, this clip never gets old. This is the Weather Channel guy coming and slamming Mr. Zeltzer, Egghead, saying climate change, all this shit's a hoax. You guys are scaring people unintentionally or intentionally, unnecessarily, and you're doing it for matters of control and profit. That's the truth. And he's like, "Whoa, climate change is real. Climate change is real. Shut up. Get off the air. Go away." Anyway, I'm late for church. It's 10:06. Okay, so that'll do it for this morning's episode of Memes in the Morning, News, Beholden the Truth. What is this? It's a LED flaming light. Interesting. Twitter employees were selling verification for upwards of $15,000. For certain accounts, mine included, they would refuse to verify you through the standard application and then privately offer to verify. Oh, boy. That's interesting. When did this come out? It's a screenshot. Yeah, okay. Clown World. Is this... I can't go into casinos. They're so depressing. The fog of smoke. That's a depressing sight. Very depressing. Can we end on a positive note? Is there anything to end here that will be more uplifting? If you're struggling financially, just cut your Disney Plus subscription. Implying I have a Disney Plus prescription. Corny as fuck. What does he call Biden out?
10%. Mike Pence at 7. Oh, Mike's doing better than I thought. Trump at 71. Ron DeSanctimonious at 10%. Mike Pence at 7. Oh, Mike's doing better than I thought.
Yeah, that's the Ron DeSanctimonious. I had to practice saying that a few times. It's hard to get out. What is this? If we elect 2 more Democratic United States senators, no. That's not going to happen. Roe v. Wade is not coming back. You will not continue to sacrifice children to Moloch. That's a good note to end on. No more baby sacrifice. No more human sacrifice. Okay, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I will see you again soon. It's Josh Likens with Beholden the Truth. Have a great day.